Thank you, Vishant, for taking our time and talking to Express Computer. First of all, I would like to understand from you, from Vodafone Idea's perspective, what does digital transformation mean for you as an organization, and what are some of the key elements of this whole digital disruption that we talk about?
So in terms of digital and what it means for every organization, I think there is a slightly different definition. But when we look at it in Vodafone, we kind of put it through a certain tests or checks. So a digital program in Vodafone would typically cover the social aspects, data analytics, of course, mobility, and then the cloud. So a good, strong digital solution will have all of those aspects considered and well integrated into the program. The second is the way we work. The typical project development approach in the past has been a waterfall, where things were done and then handed over to the next department to work on, and then there's progress throughout the organization, and then finally you created a product. The new way, the digital way of working, is really all about agile. So the way you're actually approaching that digital has to be in an agile methodology, which means much more of an iterative process, integrated teams covering both the front end, the commercial marketing functions, as well as the development functions of IT. So that is also a very important aspect of a digital program within Vodafone. And the third thing is that if for a successful digital program, you must have a very clear business objective that this digital program is going to deliver,
Right.
or digital initiative is going to deliver. Without that, there is a tendency to kind of do a lot of things because they seem to be the flavor of the day, the biggest buzzword of the day, and we end up doing things that don't deliver business results, and that could actually cause a lot of damage to the overall digital initiative. So we try to be careful about these aspects when we are doing digital programs within Vodafone Idea.
Okay. So the digital initiatives which has already been taken, so if you could throw some light on the business outcomes which has come up, and that is already kind of you're able to reap benefits out of it.
So we've done many, and for example, one of the ones that we did very early on was around our enterprise sales and enabling that entire sales force to work in a much more digital way, so we can give visibility of connectivity on the fly. It used to take us days, sometimes weeks, actually, to tell a customer whether we could provide connectivity to their doorstep, their business office or retail location. By digitizing that entire process in our back end and creating a very strong inventory of the assets we have, where we have fiber, how far it is, and geocoding that, mapping that, and putting in some of the business filters, we are now able to give that visibility instantaneously. So when a salesperson is visiting the customer, he's able to tell right there and then, yes, we'll be able to do this. This is approximately the amount of time it will take us to fulfill this, and this is the approximate cost. So there is an enormous amount of analysis that you need to do, a strong inventory that you need to have, and geolocation tools that you're using to enable your salesman or saleswoman to really effectively serve the customer there and then, which is a very important aspect of digital, which is about instantaneous gratification. Similarly, we have done those kind of things with some of the services we are rolling out in our application. So for example, the My Vodafone application, or the similar application on the Idea side. So we're doing many of those things in there as well. In addition to that, we are also doing many things to enable a much larger enterprise-wide digital transformation. So we're putting in a lot of the building blocks. And one of the biggest building blocks of digital is really having cloud infrastructure. Because without cloud, it's actually very difficult to do things very quickly and very rapidly. So we are building probably the world's largest cloud in our company. And the latest kind of revision of that is edge cloud. So we're bringing cloud closer and closer to the edge of our network, which will make a lot of the things like IoT also much better and more differentiated versus our competitors. And it will also let us move our workloads, IT workloads, very flexibly across geography, as well as when we put in our hybrid orchestration layer, we'll be able to move it off-premise, on-premise. So that is a very, very big part of our digital enablement agenda that we have in our company. Speaking of edge cloud locations, we have right now, I think, north of 40 locations in the country with cloud solutions. Within the next 1 month, that will double. We'll have 80. So very rapid deployment of cloud and moving it close to the edge. So therefore we have the least amount of latencies in the services we provide, which is extremely critical on IoT. But also then it creates new capabilities for us as a business for launching new services and providing new differentiated products. And where people can actually use Vodafone Idea Cloud to create services to improve their businesses. And that's the vision we have, and that's kind of part of the overall digital agenda that we have.
So when you talk about cloud, and we interact with a lot of industry thought leaders, they say that going forward, hybrid cloud will become a new normal kind of thing. So do you believe that, and what your preparedness for that kind of changing market dynamics that we're going to see as we go along?
No, absolutely. I think hybrid cloud is a reality today, and it will only accelerate. Especially for large enterprises such as ours, it makes a lot of sense. So we are doing that both on our network as well as the IT estates. So we are creating application services which can use either off-premise or on-premise location solution. What is very critical is creating an orchestration layer so you can very flexibly in a real time move workloads across different compute platforms and therefore create the most cost efficient, most scalable and most performant solution for the customer and for the business. So for example, Vodafone Idea was the first operator in the world to do a VoLTE call and a data call on a public cloud. We did this about 3 months ago, and we set actually a record in the kind of how fast we did it as well. We were able to do that within like less than 2 months of initiating the project. So we are a believer in the hybrid cloud. And we do think that even in the telco world, you will end up using some of the compute capabilities, cloud capabilities of the public providers. But at the same time, because we are a technology company with so much of the latest technology being deployed in the modernization, transformation of our networks today, we are building a lot of that cloud capability in-house as well. So ultimately, it comes down to what is the most cost efficient and the quickest way to process that transaction. And it could be a very large cloud center which is off-premise, or it could be edge cloud where where latency is a big requirement, or it could be other things that you want to achieve. And all of those things, when we look at the amount of compute power we have deployed in our networks today, is, I believe, is larger than any of the public cloud providers have in India today. So we have all of these locations plus a lot of processors sitting there available for use. So we want to monetize that asset as well. So hybrid cloud is very important for us, and we think that it'll be a great business opportunity for us as well.
Okay. So as the organization has already embarked on the digital journey, if you could share some of the best practices that were kind of leveraged in this journey, and at the same time, some of the roadblocks that you faced, both considering the internal as well as the external factors. So if you could highlight those.
I think in reality, we talk a lot about technology and all that, but I've had a very strong belief for many years now that ultimately it's not about technology, it's about people, and it's about mindsets and the ways of working. So I think the same holds true in the digital journey as well. A lot of this has to do with the way we work and how we're going to change our mindsets. So moving away from that waterfall mindset to an agile way of working, I think is a big challenge for many organizations. We have people for the last 20, 30 years have grown up with a very different way of working, and now you need to adapt to the new way of working. And I think that is the biggest challenge. And integrating the teams, the marketing, the sales, the customer service, with IT development, with network guys, to create a co-created solution in a very rapid iterative method goes against the grain of many kind of things that we have valued as organizations in the past. So we need to reset that thinking, and that is the biggest challenge that I see.
Okay. All right. Okay. So when we talk about the emerging tech or digital technologies, cloud is here to stay. We are seeing wide scale deployments happening. But at the same time, now in the industry, we are talking about technologies like AI, machine learning, IoT, RPA. So, firstly, from the AI machine learning perspective, how do you evaluate this as a technology, and how are you kind of leveraging it to your business benefits?
Yeah. So number one, any project or program that we kick off has to support a very clear business objective. Yeah, whether it is in AI or ML, machine learning, which, by the way, I prefer the word machine learning over AI. I think artificial intelligence is a bit of a, it sets unrealistic expectations. But machine learning, I think, is a more appropriate term. Or RPAs, robotic process automation, all of those things have to have a very clear, specific business objective in mind as before you embark on the journey.
Right.
So either it has to result in a improved customer experience, reduction in cost, faster time to market, etc. And you must have a measurement matrix defined before you begin that initiative. So many times there is a tendency to actually define success after the project is over. I am a very strong believer that you need to define the success criteria and matrix before the project begins.
Okay.
And that way then you can be a lot more honest about the way you assess the effectiveness and efficacy of that program. So that, I think, is a very, very important aspect whenever you're looking at AI, machine learning, or any new technology. The second aspect of this is that all of these technologies today, at the state they are in, are not gonna replace a human being. What they do is they augment the human being.
All right.
But you still need a human being to actually still make those decisions. So AI probably is a better word, is augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. So I think you have to be very clear about that. All of these things are still not mature enough that where you can just kind of let the plane fly completely by a computer. Similarly, in our networks, I don't believe our networks can run all by computers. You will need human beings. But the human beings that we will need need to have a much stronger data analysis skills, data scientists, let's call them. So I think engineers are going to have to know data science much better. More and more of our work will be driven by data and facts and evidence and algorithmic decisions. and little less emphasis on just a pure gut instinct. So while human being is still required, the human being also needs to then learn some of the data science disciplines. So I think that is a very important aspect of any kind of AI or ML journey you're embarking on, is making sure that you have that approach understood and right set of people executing that. And that's the way we are executing this journey. For example, in our NOC, Network Operations Center, we call it Super NOC, which is in Pune. We have a lot of robotic process automation things done. We've been on that journey for years now. However, there's a lot of human beings still doing a lot of the work to make sure that these machine algorithms are serving the needs of our business as we intend. So that's one example. Similar things we are doing also on network planning, network design, where we're putting in a lot of this machine learning to make sure that decisions are much more predictable and repeatable. And we have, for example, been working with IBM and their Watson technology for the last 3 years now to develop a radio engineer. Now, radio engineering used to be a kind of a black art, black science type of a thing. It's partially art, partially science. There's a lot of things that a human being needs to know about the environment that you're designing the solution for, as well as apply engineering principles. And we've been working on creating a machine algorithm to actually augment that human effort. So therefore, the outcome becomes much more predictable and repeatable. So therefore, my quality goes up over a period of time. Still in the development phase, but that's the way we approach these things. I think it's a journey, and you have to take it step by step.
Okay, so specifically talking about RPA as a technology, so that you have already been using it for years now. So what has been the number of processes that kind of RPA has enabled in terms of how many transactions that the software robotics perform daily? If you could give us a little heads up on that.
For example, we have in the merged network of Vodafone Idea, we have more than 200,000 locations where we have cell sites operating. Each cell site can create dozens, hundreds of alarms when, for example, power fails or a fiber gets cut or something, somebody vandalizes it, which are all the things we experience in India on a very high frequency basis. So what used to happen in the old days is, you can just imagine, there are millions and millions of alarms coming every hour, every day, and we have a few people. So a lot of those alarms just used to get cleared without actually proper analysis of them. By putting this RPA technology in, we are now able to, we set some very clear algorithms to understand which alarms can be correlated with what event, and therefore we have a very clear, intelligent analysis coming out. Well, there are 100 alarms, but that's because there is a fiber cut there. So we focus on the right problem, as opposed to just dismissing the alarms like it used to happen with a very manual effort. So those are the kind of things, because when you're dealing with very high volume data, then RPA is really the only way to do this. All right, so that is one way we are using RPAs, and then similar things have been done in many other things. So one of the other algorithms we are trying to develop is, we have technicians located across the country. So for example, there is a power failure at a cell site, or any problem at a cell site. Who is the closest technician? We can actually now do a geolocation and dispatch a work order, to the closest technician. We know how far he is. We know approximately how long it will take for him to get there. So then we can actually make sure that the site gets restored in the minimum amount of time available. And also because we are able to get better analysis of the kind of event that triggered the alarm. So for example, this specific card has failed. We can also do a check with the technician's inventory to make sure he's got that right card with him. So when he shows up at the cell site, he doesn't say, well, I don't have the spare part, so I need to go back and bring another spare part in. So then your time to restore it gets improved as well. So those are the kind of things we are working on with RPA and machine learning and AI.
So apart from these technologies, any other area or domain that you are, as an organization, you are closely looking upon, which you think is going to disrupt the telecom industry as such in the coming years, and your preparedness for it?
So on the telecom side, absolutely, we are doing a massive transformation of our network. As the two networks come together, Vodafone and Idea, it is an opportunity for us to actually make sure that we put in the latest generation technology. Because what we are doing is we are replacing what the two networks were built with for the last 20-25 years. All of those sites, we are actually dismantling old things and putting brand new things in. So it will come with the latest generation technology. So for example, there is technology called Massive MIMO developed for 5G. We are one of the largest deployers of that technology in our 4G. And we got thousands of base stations now with Massive MIMO technology. This is also again using machine learning. So what it is you create very narrow beams and you try to cover different areas more precisely. Therefore you reduce overall interference in your network and therefore increase capacity in your network. Now in order to do this, there is a lot of machine learning that's going on in the back, which is actually looking at where the customers are, where the traffic is, and therefore more precise beaming of the signal. Now that technology was originally developed for 5G. We are putting it into 4G because it's available here for us today. Similarly, cloud and cloud computing, if you look at the 5G standard in telecom, it is all about cloud in the core and edge cloud computing. Because we are doing this massive transformation, we are spending such a large amount of capex, we've decided that we're going to bring that architecture, those solutions into our 4G solution. So therefore we get many of the benefits of 5G today with our 4G. So lower latency, more flexible computing and workload movement, etc. So all of those things will be available with our network. So it will be a very state-of-the-art 4G plus network that we'll be deploying in our Vodafone Idea estate over the period of next 9 to 12 months. And similarly, the same things are happening on the IT side as well. So massive cloudification of applications while we are combining the two IT estates and simplifying it and deduplicating it.
You mentioned about 5G. Suddenly we are hearing a lot about this. Every telecom organization is talking about 5G. Are we there yet, or is still a time? And especially from the technology perspective, because the backbone infra has to be ready to support that kind of stuff.
So I think sometimes we oversimplify things. So 5G, 6G, 7G, you can say any G's, but the reality is, what is the specific benefit you're bringing to the customer? That's what's gonna pay your bills. When the customer is willing to pay for that service, customer will be willing to pay higher money if he's getting some extra value. Right, and that's how we look at this this entire situation. We believe that 4G will serve 90% plus of the use cases out there, maybe 95, 96, 97% of the use cases. So you need to be very careful about the specific use cases that you're trying to address and what is the right technology to address them. With our 4G plus solution, we believe that we'll be able to address very high 90% type of use cases that that are out there, especially in India. So we are putting in those components of 5G in our network to enable that. Now there is this kind of a belief that you must have new spectrum, and that's the only way to do 5G, and that's not what 5G is about. 5G is actually about entire architectural change in the way we build telecom networks, and the spectrum is just a small component of it. So our belief is by changing this architecture, we can actually serve very, very large amount of use cases, and spectrum situation should be addressed separately, and that has to spectrum policy of the government should support India specific use cases. We should not just merely imitate what the rest of the world is doing. We have to really say what is right for India and how do we add value to the Indian economy overall. And in that space, our belief is that we can do a lot, almost everything we want with 4G. And therefore 4G spectrum is sufficient. Architectural change in 4G architecture to make it 5G ready, yes, absolutely, and that's what we should be driving as an industry in this country.
Okay. So lastly, as we know that you have been using a lot of technology innovation being done by this IT vendor companies, and you have mentioned about IBM Watson that you're leveraging. So how do you think that the constant innovation happening in order to help and support in your digital journey assets from the likes of HP, Microsoft of the world?
So we work with a variety of technology partners, and with each partner there is a specific innovation stream. With each major partner, we have a specific innovation stream that we are leading. So we work with companies like HP. We work with companies in the telecom space as well. With HP specifically on the cloud side, we are doing a lot of work. One of the key things we want to continue to develop further is something called smart NICs. This is a very intelligent way of managing the cloud and the efficiency of that engineering of the cloud. And there are a variety of things that we can do really to make sure that our estate is much more capable and performant versus other solutions out there. So HP is a very important partner in this journey as well for us.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for taking our time today and talking to Express Computer. It's a pleasure having you on here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
talking
sir.
to you.
Same here. Bye-bye.